Welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Brian Halley, and you're listening to the Brandstanding podcast. I'm excited to help you unlock the magic of brand strategy to supercharge your business in a way that's practical, easy, and fun. So let's dive in. Hey, welcome to the first episode of Brandstanding. My name is Brian Halley, and I'm here with my wife and co-host, Emily Halley. Emily, want to say hello?
Hi, everybody.
It is really nice to have her here, and we're going to learn a little bit more about her. But first, tell us how you feel about launching this podcast. How much time and effort? Was it easy?
I have to admit, it has been a thing. It has taken Brian several months to construct the studio and think of all of the little details, the sound and the lights and the video. We were up until like 1:30 in the morning last night thinking that we were going to be able to record yesterday, right? But things just take longer than you think they will.
Yeah, and the very first one is usually the hardest. Like you just,
Woo.
I don't know if you can relate to that, audience.
So many nerves.
Yeah. Let me introduce myself. My name is Brian Halley, and I am a graphic designer and creative director of the Right Think branding agency. I've been doing the branding and design for 25 years now. And some of my hobbies are soccer, which I've played since I was 4 years old. Fun fact. And I just recently stopped playing just so I could save my body and last a little longer. But I do enjoy mountain biking. I really got into that when things slowed down in the whole world in 2020, and I love it. I got 2 new e-bikes that I love going up with my friends and family. I am a movie connoisseur. I love 80s, 90s, 2000 movies, and I love music. That's one of the things I love. That was fun about building this podcast studio was I actually got my dream studio. I love collecting movie instrumental soundtracks. Epic, beautiful. I follow the composers, Hans Zimmer, John Williams, James Newton Howard, all the greats. I have tens of thousands of songs, and
That's how we know when it's time to get a bigger computer, right? The music has filled it up.
I'm glad the phones can hold all of it these days. So yeah, that's me. I'm sure you'll find out more about me as we go on these podcasts. My wife, Emily. Tell us a little bit about you, Emily.
Yeah. So I'm Emily. I have kind of a mixed background. I've worked with Brian for lots of years on writing copy for different design projects that he's had, as well as moving into the position of brand strategy. So he will help clients design their logos and all of their things. And I make sure that the brand is on strategy, that it's creatively doing what it's supposed to. I'm also now a history teacher. I teach middle school as well as high school history. And I love interior design, and I love to read. And Brian and I have been married now for 25 years. Just celebrated our 25th anniversary in May.
Wow.
Yeah, long time.
25 years.
Long
we celebrated
time.
and went to Paris for 2 weeks. And it
So
was
fun.
something Emily always wanted to do since high school.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it was good to get there.
And then we have 3 kids and one very old grumpy dog named Coaster.
And he's my best friend.
Who is locked upstairs with the fans on, right? So that he doesn't bark in the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, with my homemade sign on the door that says, "Do not disturb, knock, or ring doorbell." Namely, probably Amazon bringing one of our last lights for the studio.
Yes.
That's great. Well, cool. Let's dive into the podcast and get into the meat of this. Emily, you want to start us?
Yeah, I think it would be good to tell the listeners why we decided to start this podcast. Like, why branding?
Okay, yeah. So we run a brand agency, and it has always been so hard for us to turn people away because they didn't have the money to spend on branding. It's expensive. You're really vulnerable because you need to compete quickly in the marketplace in order to survive. And so we wanted to get this podcast out there to help people get their message and their vision out to the world, to understand the psychology of design and branding. And podcasts were the best way to do it. right? Like it's free and it's convenient. You can listen to it on your way to work. You could also be learning it on your downtime, instead of playing a game or something.
Yeah.
And so we're like podcast, boom.
Yeah.
Any other reasons you can think of?
Well, to piggyback off of that, I feel like a lot of times business owners think that branding is the realm of the designer, right? And they kind of outsource all of the creative thinking to designers and marketers and people like that. But in my opinion, I feel like as the business owner, you should be running point on your brand and on your brand strategy. So educating yourself about all of these different branding principles will help you lead out when it comes to your brand so that you can still outsource creative work, but you can direct how that brand is going to pivot, how it's going to look in the marketplace. Those should be decisions that are coming from the top.
Agreed. Yes. That's fantastic.
So why do you think brands are so important?
Let's see. Brands. Oh, I love brands. There's such an emotional tie to them. Like, think about the power of brands in your lives, how they're integrated into them, how they shape your memories, your preferences, the sports teams you follow, the cars you drive, the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the restaurants you go to with your family, the toys you received at Christmas as a child, the clothes that you wear. That's powerful.
It definitely impacts us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I am curious, Emily, what is one of your favorite brands from when you were a kid?
Okay, so actually I have two. Well, three. They all relate to each other.
Okay.
So my dad is a gigantic, oh, that's funny that I used that word. He's a gigantic Giants fan.
Giant.
Yes. And so because he was a Giants fan, we all, had to be Giants fans. And related to that, he also collected baseball cards. He always let me choose the pack of baseball cards when we would go to the store. And he always let me have the gum.
Okay.
Inside the pack.
Yeah.
So really, as a kid, like, I didn't care about the cards. It was just like, give me the gum. And then that kind of evolved when my dad would go play softball. He would always have those big packs. I don't know if you guys remember this, but these big packs of Big League Chew.
Yeah.
And, kind of like this shredded bubble gum that you would just stuff like wads of it into your mouth.
They still have it out there to buy.
So I guess in my mind there was this connection happening for me between baseball and bubblegum. And then when I was in 5th grade, I started playing softball. I was on a softball team, and the big new thing was bubble tape.
Oh.
Do you remember bubble tape?
Bubble tape.
Bubble tape.
Yes.
Yes. So now you could like unroll your gum. You could get as big of a piece of gum as you wanted.
And you were in control.
You were in control of the gum.
How big your bubbles would be.
Every girl on the team had to have their bubble tape. And I probably went through like one of those containers like every couple of days. And I was driving my mom crazy because she was like, how can you be eating this much gum? And I'm like, it's just so good. And you have to pull off at least 2 feet to put into your mouth at one time.
That's a big bubble you could make of that.
Anyway, so just this bubblegum flavor and baseball have just colored my childhood.
I love it. Love it. That is fantastic. See how brands are attached to memories and feelings? Yeah, you have those too. We all have those. And so mine, I think about, like I mentioned I play soccer, and I've been playing soccer since I was 4 years old. And my very first pair of soccer shoes was an Adidas pair, and I still have them. My parents gave them to me, and they kept this like little tiny size 3 pair of soccer shoes. And I remember my dad always polished them. I had the shiniest shoes on the team every time, and I was like, this is kind of embarrassing. I always get the polish on my fingers from the laces, but I'm like, whatever, it's my dad. But Adidas, yeah, so that was put into me before I even knew what brands were. So I just started wearing these shoes, and it's been interesting, the loyalty that I've had through, years, lots of years, through high school, through college, playing as an adult. And I remember I needed a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, I don't know if you have ever broken that.
I went out and bought a
Adidas.
pair of Nikes.
No.
I did. I bought Nike and I went out and played some indoor soccer. And they did not feel the same. They fit a little different. And I don't know, is it because I was hyper aware that they were different and I was noticing all the little things because Adidas could have had the same things. But I was like, I don't like these. And I bought some new Adidas and I went back out and I played. And I'm a striker and I like to score goals. So you could feel the tiny differences.
Yeah.
But that was my loyalty, and I
Yeah.
still am an Adidas fan. And there's just something
Well,
about
and
those
then
three bars.
if you are wearing Adidas shoes, you also need to be wearing Adidas pants and Adidas shirts and Adidas hat.
She's right.
Adidas jacket.
Adidas
You
socks.
can't mix the brands.
I even have socks.
This is the thing.
I say it's a faux pas if you wear Nike with Adidas together.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're silly.
We're off track,
We're
but here
silly.
we go. Those are brands, powerful.
But everyone should weigh in on social media.
Yeah, let's hear from you.
Tell us what your brand memories are. Like, what are the brands that you have to have? Luckily, I was able to break my bubble tape addiction.
You're done. Yeah.
Yeah, which would look really strange as an adult, but, you know.
Yeah, she does not chew the bubble gums anymore. But yeah, find our social channels on Brandstanding Podcast and let us know the loyalty you have to a brand or a memory that's attached to it, because I know we all have them. We cannot get out of this life
Unscathed.
untouched by brands.
Okay. So tell us, how did you get into branding?
All right. My story about branding is, do not laugh, audience, but I knew I was not going to be a biologist or a lawyer or a doctor. I wasn't going to study mathematics and architecture. I've always been an artist. And like in elementary school, if there's a blank, like when you remember when you used to cover your book with the paper?
Oh, yes.
Like they'd give you like these things to cover your book, and it had all these designs or stuff like that. I'd flip it upside down and make the book cover completely white.
You must have gone to a rich school, because we had to bring like a paper bag from home.
Okay. And I remember doing that, and I'm really good at that. I can do that. But I remember it was like the Say No to Drugs era. And,
Yeah.
and it was like, here's they were sponsored.
Right,
but I flipped them upside down, and it was a white
like,
canvas.
I need to do my own design here.
Point is, I loved it. It opened up my creative side. I love to just fill white space with creative stuff, like whether I drew, whether I painted. And so in high school, I took a test remember that test that maybe you've taken it, listeners, that you say what your likes are, dislikes, and it'd say like what career you would be good at.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking those.
And mine came out, I said, here's my likes and this and that, and just going through, and it said, you'd be a good graphic designer. And I was like, what? That is like the coolest name. Graphic designer.
Like, where is that subject at school?
Yeah, what is that? I have no idea. And computers were kind of a newish thing. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be a graphic designer. I want to be called that. That would be super awesome. No idea what it took, but I was like, I want to do that. Went right into college, and I just took art classes, painting and all that stuff, shifted over into design. Flash ahead. 4 years. I got my
degree.
bachelor's of fine arts in graphic design, and I loved it. It was super awesome. I had won some awards for some national contests, and I thought I was pretty good. Here I was jumping into my first job designing for Reebok, and they were kind of a big name. And I started there doing internal designs, things that would be seen in the office, things that would be seen by employees. And they're like, wow, this Brian kid's good. We should give him some more stuff. He's been here long enough. He's got, some trust behind him. We should give him some stuff that the outside world would see, like the clients, the customers. And so they started giving me projects, and they started being denied. They did not approve my designs.
I remember this was a dark time for Brian Halley.
How dare they?
How dare they?
I have won awards. My ego was strong and powerful then. Who are you to say if this is good? I'm being creative. What do you have? Are you creative?
Well, and technically your stuff was good. Like it was.
It wasn't
well
bad.
Designed. Yeah. So, what was the problem?
Yeah. Fortunately, I had this great mentor. His name was Jose. He was the director of the web team, and he saw my frustration. One day he walked me over to this bookshelf and he picks up this Reebok brand standards guide. And are you ready for this? I've been doing design for quite some time. Was the first time I laid eyes on a brand standards book, and it was beautiful. Not only was it designed amazing, but it went through the Reebok mission and their purpose, their identity, their colors, their fonts, and it talked about the meaning of all the design. Then it went into their visuals and showed what those should look like and how to keep the brand consistent. This was the branding aha moment of my life. And he said, Brian, it's not that your designs are bad. It's just that Reebok has paid hundreds of millions of dollars over time to create a brand that people know and trust. And they can't have you come in and change that. It's breaking their promise. And I went, and that's what started
your villain arc.
Yes, my love of brand and my testimony of brand standards books. So I moved companies. Ready? We moved to California, and I worked for the Jelly Belly Candy Company. Right at home office, the funnest company like ever.
It was good times. We always had Jelly Bellies in stock at our house.
Yeah, imagine you drive up to work and you get out of your car and you can smell the flavor the Oompa Loompas are making in the factory that day. Oh, they're doing bubble gum today. That's in the air. It was wonderful. And so I get there for my first day, and what do you think is the first question I ask?
Besides, where's the Jelly Belly closet?
And they did show me.
I would imagine you would want to know where their brand standards were, right?
Yeah, fooled me once.
My guidelines.
Don't want to be fooled again.
Yeah.
Where's your brand standards book? Oh, you're a successful company. You have been around for 20 plus years.
I don't want to mess this up.
Don't want to mess it up. They didn't have one.
What?
They did not have one, but they had somehow created a good, solid brand. And so they put me on the international design. So at the time, they were redesigning their
packaging, right?
Yeah, worldwide. Like their look worldwide. And they hired a San Francisco agency. They had this guy come in once a week to work on the Jelly Belly national brand. I remember I always tried to sneak in and say hi and all that. He would not give me the time of day.
Well, I mean, he worked in San Francisco.
Yeah, and he had
that's fancy.
Huge design agency and all that stuff. And I just wanted to glean something, but he's like, yeah, not worth my time. You're like a junior designer. Like, you just started. Okay, fine. So they put me on the international packaging with a lady named Elsa, and we worked on that brand together. And since there was no brand standards book, we kind of had to reverse engineer the brand. We went through the meaning of the brand. We looked at what they'd done in the past, and I noticed that over time, the look of designs had begun to fracture or become inconsistent. Without standards, they were doing what I probably would have done to Reebok had I been left to my own devices.
Okay, so you had to go back and like look at all their previous stuff.
Yeah, for like the last 2 years.
And try to figure out what is it that makes Jelly Belly's brand Jelly Belly?
Consistent, yeah. What was it? And it was different because they'd hired different design agencies all around, and they were good agencies. Not going to put them down. It was incredible work, but it wasn't consistent. And I was put on the international, and I just worked through the process and worked on the designs, worked with the marketing director to see which directions should we go, what messaging should we have. I remember Jelly Belly is like fun, gourmet, colorful. Like those were our three words.
You're kind of like establishing the brand.
Yes.
Going to its soul. What is it?
What are the consistent themes over all those looks that might have been different? What is the soul?
And then how to express that in the international packaging and
exactly
what does that look like to people? Okay.
So design the international packaging, and I love to mock those up. I print them out, cut them out so they're little boxes, and I had this look that we went towards, and I put them all up on my cubicle. And Herm Rolling is the owner of Jelly Belly. Mm-hmm. He was the guy. His office was just down the hallway from me. They kept the creatives close and marketing close, which I think is really good.
We've got to keep an eye on you guys.
And yeah. And like Emily said earlier, you should know what's going on out there as a director of your company. And I remember the San Francisco designers doing the national brand, which is like 95% of the market. And you already have designs. He already had stuff up. I was doing international, 5% of the market, very small. And I remember one night I was working late. It was like after 6:00, and I was probably finishing up some project that was due the next day. Mm-hmm. And Herm Rolling is not a small person. He is He's a farmer. That's like his background.
Imposing.
And you can feel his presence. He's towering over 6 feet, and he's big, and he's pacing back and forth behind me in my corner cubicle. Yeah, I don't think. I'm sitting on my back to him, and I'm like going, oh my gosh, I got to address this. What does he need? So I spin around in my chair and I say, hey, Herm, can I help you with anything? Can I get anything for you? Do you need something? He's like, he grabs his forehead, breathing heavy. I'm like, what's going on? And he goes, and we don't talk much. He's the owner. He's doing all this stuff. But he turns to me and goes, tomorrow I am going into a meeting with all of our people, and I am choosing whether or not we're going with the San Francisco agency and this look they've created for our brand, or go with this. And he points to the international brand. And I didn't even know there was an argument going on, anything happening. I'm just doing my thing. And I knew nothing about business back then. I was so fresh. I was just right out of school. And I just turned to him and I said, Herm, you built this company with your gut. Like, tomorrow in the meeting, just follow your gut. And I slowly turn around in my chair and get back to work.
I hope that was the right answer.
He pauses for a moment, breathes heavily, and then he leaves. I'm good. Okay. Crisis avoided. Woohoo. Woo. All right. Flash forward 2 weeks. I get called into the creative director's office. And he's like, all right, so we've had our big meeting. Marketing director came to me. They are firing the San Francisco company.
Holy smokes.
But you, Brian, will be now taking your international brand and designing Jelly Belly worldwide, not just international. And I went, oh, what? I'm like, was I going to get fired? I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen.
They have got to have paid that guy so much money. That must have been hard.
It must have been. He could have been making my salary per month.
Yes.
You know, like that's back then.
Yes.
And it was just an extraordinary time. Now, I say that story not to brag, but it gave me experience and confidence, and I was in the right place, right time kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it's what I learned.
Why do you think they decided to go with your designs?
So we came up with these keywords that define the brand of fun, colorful, and gourmet. The design we developed, we called it the conga line. It was just beautiful. And it really expressed this idea of color and fun. And we were able to adapt that to packaging and bags, NASCAR, point of purchase displays, like all these places reflected that brand that they had. And
he knew it.
And he knew it. In his gut, he knew it. And that's what we want to share with you on this podcast is what we learned. We've adapted these branding principles to hundreds of companies. If you build on, it acts as your compass and your guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we distilled 3 branding principles that we wanted to share with our listeners today, because if you're new to branding, if you're new to business, you might not yet know, why branding. And so just a few takeaways for you today. The first one is that the market today is completely saturated with so many businesses, with so many products, and consumers are forced to choose between endless options, right? And I think because so many of those options are big, trusted brands, and they look professional, and they just, why would you not buy them?
Yeah,
right?
You have to compete with that.
So if you're like this brand new starting business and you can't afford the fancy San Francisco designer to make your stuff look amazing on the shelves, sometimes your stuff doesn't look as great, right? And then you're forced with how do I get people to choose mine over the stuff that looks nice?
And 4.7 million businesses on average start each year in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like they're not all.
And crazy amounts don't make it past, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The statistics are quite there. Like 20% of the U.S. businesses fail in their first year, 30% by the second, 50% by the fifth, and by the 10th year, 70%. And that's out of Entrepreneur Magazine. And we're not saying that to scare you. It's just saying,
that's just the reality of it.
oh, yeah, it's the reality for business. And branding absolutely helps. There's a lot of variables in it.
Right.
But what if you knew a little bit more? That would give you an edge and make you step closer faster.
Right. So there's three main things going on with branding in this situation. The first one is that you need to look like you are credible. People don't want to buy from you if your stuff looks like you are making it, on an old printer in your garage. The design needs to be up to date. It needs to reach your target audience. You don't have to spend a lot to make your stuff look good. And we're going to talk a lot about that on our podcast. So I guess that's the first one, right? Number one is that it's going to help you look credible. It's going to give you the credibility that is difficult to find in the marketplace today. The second principle is that you need to be consistent. And I think that's what you ran into at Jelly Belly, what was going on, right? Like they were creating all these different designs, but there was no unifying standard to keep everything looking the same, sounding the same, feeling the same, right? So especially when you're new, Nike is so recognizable now that, my daughter showed me a Nike t-shirt the other night that had like a picture of like a Chihuahua on it wearing a bucket hat and Air Force Ones and a hoodie. So they can get away with that now, right? Because they're Nike. Everyone knows their brand.
And if you have 30 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to spend,
right,
that's the loyalty strength they have now. So don't compare yourself to.
But when you're first getting started, people need to see your brand like 7 times before they remember you. So you need to make sure that that brand looks consistent, that the colors are the same, the logo is the same, the message is the same, so that they have an opportunity to know who you are.
And I would even go on a limb and say it's probably 14 to 21 times.
Probably.
With the amount of information that's given to us.
Right.
But a point is consistency.
Yes, consistency. So that's number 2. And the third branding principle that we want to share is going back to being competitive. Branding helps you express to your target market how you're different from the competition. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the most important thing that's involved in the branding process and making choices about branding, is to try to figure out like what makes us different. How do we deliver on that promise? And then consistently doing that over time. So that's our third takeaway. So credible, consistent, and competitive is how branding is going to help you in your business.
Excellent. Well, that is really fun. That kind of wraps up our podcast for today. This is our first one. Mm-hmm. How was it, Em? Did we do it?
We did it. It feels good.
It feels great. I hope the sound sounds good. All this work we've done. Tell us about the future episodes we're going to have here.
Okay. Yeah, we hope that you will continue to tune in with us. We've got some exciting things coming up. We're going to talk about things like the right way to go through the branding process. I think that's coming up on the next episode, actually, right? Kind of the mistakes people make, what they skip when they do the branding process. So we're going to set the record straight on that one. How to find your customers and how to develop your brand, how to keep it consistent. We're also going to teach you, this is probably like the coolest thing that we talk about in our branding agency. We're going to talk about the shortcuts that you can take psychologically in your branding to help people understand who you are quicker. So we can go from here to there way faster than the 7, 8, 9, 10 impressions that you would have to have if we were doing things the old-fashioned way. So we're going to help you get to know all of those secrets, as well as how to integrate your brand into your marketing. So those are just some big ones.
That's the journey that we're going to be going on in this podcast, and hopefully that's valuable for you. We are so thankful you took the time to listen to us today, to choose that. We know your time is valuable, and we are excited to share and and be on this journey together.
Yes.
My name is Brian Halley.
And I'm Emily.
See you next time.
Take care.